start. All right, so now you know what you're going to be doing on a daily basis. You know how to access the lectures. Let's go really quickly through some course policies. This is a course for majors. Starting next semester, this becomes a 4-hour course. Right now, if you're listening to this prior to New Year's 2016, then you're still listed technically as a 3-hour course because they've hidden the 4th hour as Chemistry 183 from you. But it really is a 4-hour course. And therefore, you should spend at least 4 hours a week listening to my lecture, and you should be spending at least 12 hours a week on homework. SACS guidelines mandate 2 to 3 hours of homework minimum for every 1 hour in class. So if I give you 12 hours of homework, I'm not giving you a lot of homework. I'm giving you the minimum homework I'm expected to. Not only that, but this is a chemistry in your career. This is a class in your career path, right? This is one of those classes that is your first priority. Your priorities in life from this point forward, let me tell you them right now, just so you'll know them, are faith, family, chemistry, calculus, and then physics and biology, and then rest of life, right? And that includes sleep. So this should be one of your first and primary focuses. So you do have a commitment that you're going to be looking at of between 12 and 16 hours a week minimum on this course. My grading is a weighted grade. If you looked at actual raw point totals, you'd have like 700 something homework points and probably 300 lecture quiz points and only 400 something exam points or something like that. It's a weighted grade. It's weighted by category. 5% of your grade is made up of lecture quizzes, 10% on homework, 25% on chapter tests, and then you have 4 exams in the class and 1 final exam, and they're worth 60% total. So I'm weighting the categories. Mastering Chemistry does the weighting for you automatically. Whenever you look at that scores and you look at your total, that's a very accurate grade for all assignments that are past their late date. The only thing I don't like about Mastering Chemistry, which is my Labs Plus format, is they don't include a grade in your score until either you've submitted it or until it's past that late date. All assignments are due at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You cannot turn anything in after the date shown in the syllabus. I'm not doing that to be punitive, but just like you have your deadlines in this course, I have my deadlines. I have to submit grades. I am not allowed by the computer to submit grades for a partial class. I have to assign a grade to everybody. So I have to take the class down at that date. That will be at least 24 hours after the final. Your final will be due, at least the late date for the final will be at least 24 hours in advance of that date shown there. Lecture quizzes we've covered. Chapter tests. After every chapter, you're going to have a chapter test. These chapter tests serve 2 purposes. First, they're to force you to study the material that you've learned over the past week or 2 weeks worth of homework. So instead of waiting till an exam where you have 3 chapters to study, I'm forcing you to study 1 chapter at a time. That's one purpose of the chapter test. The second purpose of the chapter test is to provide you with a practice before the exams. I used to give ungraded practice exams. Guess what? I'd have 30 people in a class and I'd have 5 people who would take the practice exams. Those 5 people would pass the exams with flying colors. The other 25 would struggle. Therefore, I've discovered people don't do things if you don't assign point values to it. I know, cynical. Therefore, what I do is I assign point values to these chapter tests. If you look at the weighting, while the chapter tests count more than the homework, they don't count nearly as much as those exams. The chapter tests come from the exact same pool of questions as your exams do. That means that the chapter tests warn you in advance of the type of questions you'll face on the exams, the style of questions you'll face on the exam. And the chapter tests have the additional benefit of highlighting areas that you don't know as well as you thought you did. Because let's face it, you're going to take that chapter test having gone over your notes, having studied those end of chapter questions, and I'll get to that in a second. So you're going to feel pretty good. You're going to go into the chapter test. You may or may not have an issue on a couple things. Those things you have issues with have now been highlighted, so you can go back and study them, or you can ask me for help if you need it, right? I'm here for you. I'm wanting to help you. So they give you a kind of heads up about issues you're going to face on the exam. Now, the exams are worth the majority of your points. They always cover more than one chapter. They cover anywhere from 2 chapters to 4 chapters. Study for your exams by reviewing and reworking those chapter tests. You can study for your chapter tests by not only reviewing your notes, but by doing those end of chapter questions. The end of chapter questions contain the exact same types of questions that you had in the little homework assignments. So when you see on your schedule or in your announcement section of Blackboard that you have EOC homework, EOC is what I refer to as end of chapter homework, treat that as a practice exam, right? When you do that end of chapter questions, if you don't know something without having to run to your notes, that's an area you need to focus on. Because in theory, you've already worked all the type of problems that you'll see in the end of chapter questions when you've been working the homeworks prior to the end of chapter. So really, I've got 2 things to lead you to practice for those exams. The final will be cumulative, and it'll be pulled out of the same pool as the exams and chapter tests. Homework, here are the homework settings. Here's how I have the computer set for your homework. I have the homework set so that it's really easy for you to get a good grade. I would be shocked if you didn't get 90% or above in your homework category. I give you 6 attempts per homework question. Every time you get something wrong, it only costs you 3%. So if you get it wrong 5 times, it only costs you 15% of the points for that problem. So you're still batting a B even if you've missed it 5 times. I don't deduct points when you use a hint. If you don't use a hint, I give you 2% bonus, but I don't deduct any points if you use any hints. Any questions, ask about it there. Multiple choice is the one thing where I'm a little bit hard on. No partial credit for multiple choice. You need to try to get multiple choice and true and false correct the first time they're asked to you. Reset policies. Mastering chemistry works a lot better than Blackboard. I am very suspicious whenever anybody asks me for a reset in mastering chemistry. If you ask me to reset more than 3 tests or exams for you, either you have the world's worst internet provider, and therefore you need to stop taking your exams or chapter tests at home and take them at the college or the public library, or you're doing something else. Therefore, after you've asked me to reset things 3 times, I charge you 10% of your points. Ooh, harsh. I know I sound like a meanie. Not trying to be. I just know it's very rare for anybody to have things reset more than twice. And usually it's in a cluster. You know, they're trying to take 2 tests on a dark and stormy night or something like that. Withdrawal policy, it's a nightmare. There are 16 community colleges and each one has their own withdrawal policy. Because of that, if you want to withdraw, you need to ask me before December 1st. Not because that's my own personal bugaboo, but there's such a long, drawn-out process now and so different that you need to ask me in advance. Also be aware, emailing me and asking me to be withdrawn does not withdraw you from the class. Asking to be withdrawn from the class does not withdraw you from the class. All I do is I email you back and say, you have my permission to withdraw. You then need to forward that email to your local records office for most of the community colleges. Some, like Elizabethtown, require you to fill out a web form, and they make you see like 4 or 5 different people, and I think they want you to hold hands and eat cookies or something like that before they let you withdraw. So be forewarned that last moment's withdrawals are not really a possibility. You need to contact me by the time and date shown there if you want to be guaranteed to get out before the withdrawal window closes on you. Course extensions, not going to do it. Wouldn't be prudent. I can do that now because another bush is running. But anyway, another bush is running for office. But anyway, I don't give extensions. If I do give you a course extension for one of the reasons listed there, I don't give you an I. I do not give I's. There's no I's in my grade book. What I do is I give you an E until you complete the missing work. Once you complete the missing work, I will file a change of grade form for you and change that E into whatever grade it is you earn. But be forewarned, I don't give I's. And the rest is the legal mumbo jumbo. And that's it. I am here to help you. I want to help you. Nothing makes me happier than to help you. Oh, actually, I can't believe I forgot this real quickly. I thought I was winding down. Supporting materials. You need to have a calculator for this class if you don't already have one. I will give all calculator directions based on this model of calculator. You can find it everywhere, including the bookstore, for less than $20. I've seen it. Amazon bounces that price around. I didn't say that Amazon exists, but it bounces the price around between $8 and $15. I've seen them at Kroger's, at Walmart. That's the only reason I chose this calculator is because they're so ubiquitous and cheap. But all my calculator instructions will be based on this model of calculator. So if you don't already own one, I recommend getting that. Every calculator treats math differently. If you have a different model of calculator, I won't be able to help you simply because I don't know what your buttons look like, and I'm not sure what order your calculator wants those buttons pushed in because I don't own it. And I can't afford to buy every model of calculator out there. Also, you need a periodic table. I've provided one for you on the next page. Why don't you print it out? I'd print out 5 or 6 and have it handy for you when you do homework. If you want something snazzier, feel free to go to Google and type in periodic table printable and choose your favorite there. That's it now, finally. Why don't you write, oh, it's not it. It's not it. It's not it. Write down Steelers. Write down Steelers. Why don't you write down Steelers? All right, once you've written down Steelers, then it's finally it. Beep.